if you click on the weblog where it says research paper overview, I think you already know the topic. I don't think that it's anything unusual. I wanted to give you an opportunity, instead of assigning you a topic or asking you to write about an author just to practice research, I wanted it to be something that was valuable to you and something that you self-selected. So I want you just to think about something in your future and write about that and figure out what you need to in order to do that. So we'll be working, you and I, kind of independently as you work through finding the answer to your research question. It's my job to help you sort of narrow down your topic, help you find sources if you need to, and help you structure the final result. So I already asked you to think about and come to class today with a topic that you want to explore that's connected to your future. Maybe you're tired of thinking about college. I don't think you should be, but maybe you are at this point, and you want to think about something else. Or maybe you just want to think about, graduate school or whatever it is that's the burning question for you right now that would relieve you if you got some information about it. That's what I want you to focus on. The paper will be a 5 to 7 page paper that organizes the answer to your research question. Now, each one of you will have a different question, so that's why we'll be conferencing pretty frequently on how you're doing on your research. I'll be keeping track of how each one of you is progressing through your research question. And your question might take a different form as you continue through your research. Sometimes through research, we find out that it'd be better if we sort of adjusted our topic a little bit. And so it's my job to walk you through that. The audience for your paper will be high school students, even though I'm reading the paper and grading it. Obviously, the intended audience is Mrs. Ramos, but I want you to write it thinking that there might be other high school students who would like to have this same information and might have the same burning question for themselves, and your paper would answer it for them. So it's an informative research paper. All right, grades. 6 weeks doesn't seem like it would be important because it's not part of your rank, but it is part of your GPA. So I hope somebody explained that to you. Already I'm hearing from some of the other teachers that their students are saying, oh, well, they don't have to do anything 6 weeks if they're seniors. That's not accurate. Your final GPA goes through the end of the year, right? Everybody knows that? Okay. So we do not need to keep up with things. I think I'm going to make it pretty easy for you to get this done on time. I'm going to make it pretty easy for you to march through it and get it done just fine. So there'll be 3 daily grades in the 6 weeks. There's going to be a proposal. That one's going to be the first part of the project. That's going to be due on Monday. An annotated bibliography, and an outline. Those are the daily grades I'm going to be taking in the grade book for the 6 weeks. 6 weeks. We're not technically in it until Monday, right? The final research paper I've decided will be your semester exam grade. I will not be giving you a sit down, take it test. The last test that you've taken for me, you've already taken it. Well, not the AP exam, but you know what I mean. The last class work type test was the Hamlet essay. Then you just have the AP exam, but I won't know the results of that until July, right? So the research paper will take the place of that. I need to tell you right now that I'm not taking anything late. I don't care if there was a tournament. I don't care if there was a situation. Maybe think about turning things in early. We need to stay on target to get everything done. We have plenty of warning. I'm going to give you all the due dates today so that you know when everything's due on Google. I already have the assignments set up, and I'll put them into the Google Classroom. But we'll make comments on anything you turn in late, but it will be a grade of 0. That's not fair to the people who work to turn it in on time, and it's not fair to me either. So you're going to have to stay on top of your things and not procrastinate. This is my antidote to senior slide, right? Senioritis. What's it called? Senioritis. Both things, right? Yeah. So just make sure that you're turning everything in. I'm not going to be rude and not give you any feedback and just throw it back in your face. I will give you feedback because it will help you with the next part of the project, but it's going to be a grade of 0. That's true for all of the portions that go with this research. Everything's going to be an assignment on Google Classroom. I think that's just the easiest way. So at the bottom of the page there, you can see the project timeline. I tried to streamline it as much as possible. I know I'm a wordy person, but I think sometimes it's better just to get to the heart of the matter. So the first part of the assignment is the research proposal. You can see that I've already linked the assignment page for each one of the assignments and those go to the requirements for that particular part of the assignment. And so it's my job to go through those with you. I'm not going to go through all the stages with you right now. I'll do them when we finish the previous stage, but they're there for you if you wanted to look at them. I might be tweaking a couple of them a little bit. Stage 1 is the research proposal. That one is going to be due by class time on Monday. And then there's like a little description of what that is, and if you click on the link, then that's the extended description of what you need to do. Does that make sense? So it just says, explain what you plan to research and the steps you will take to do it. I will be approving your research proposals. I don't really reject very many of them, but we might be refining some of them. So if you click on that one, it will take you to the, that part of the project description for the outline. The proposal. We need some Kahoot music right here. They're supposed to update all my Chromebooks next Wednesday. That's good, right? Maybe that's the problem. All right, so when you click on that, you can see all of the details for the research proposal. I'm going to go through it with you, and you can ask me questions if you want to. I'm going to give you the rest of the time to work on it. And then in between, if you have questions, you can message me. You can stop in tomorrow, over the weekend if you're working on it. You can send me questions, etc. So it says a research proposal is a document that presents and explains a question or problem that the researcher will work to answer or solve. The proposal also sets out a research plan for discovering the answer, solution, and expected outcomes of the research. So it's usually about 1 page for a short paper, like a 5 to 7 page paper. If you were doing a longitudinal study, for your PhD, your research proposal might be 50 pages long. Just the proposal, depending on the depth of your project. But these things ramp up as you go through your education, right? It should be getting longer and more detailed. But for us, I think there'll be a page, maybe a page and a half, something like that at the most. So what you do is you always write a research proposal in paragraph form. Lots of times, and most of the time, the way that we'll do it will be to put headings. So there are 4 sections of your research proposal. So at this point in time, you're going to address each of the following elements. So on your research proposal, you'll do your MLA heading, and then you'll put in your last name with the page number and the header, just like we do on formal papers. And then you will do these headings: research question, research path, source list, and the 4th one is, what did I call it? Anticipated outcome. I'm trying to mirror this as much as possible, like the kinds of proposals that you might be expected to do in undergraduate work. So those are the kinds of things that you would see. Even if you were doing scientific research, it would be similar. But our topic is not scientific, so it doesn't have some of the components to that. Like if you were doing, like a lab study or something, you would have extra sections to put onto a research proposal. So the first section is research question. This is the main question you want to answer about your future. Everybody should already have that ready, or at least you should be like sort of between 2, or maybe you might combine them, or you should have a really good idea of the direction that you want to go with your research. So the research question section, you need to talk about why this question is important or valid to research. Make sure the question is complex enough to support a 5 to 7 page paper. This is the most crucial part at this stage. If you give a research question that's too simple, then you can't keep going for 5 pages. You can't even make 5 pages. If you have too complex of a question, it's going to go over 7. So you need to pick something that if you answer it well, then it's going to hit in that range. And it's part of my job when I get the proposal, I'll let you know if I think that it's not going to be enough and you need to add another component to your question, or if it's like you're writing a book with this topic, right? Like, what are all of the effects of architecture? Well, let's start with history, right? The cavemen. So I kind of put a little sample on there so that you could see that a 1 to 3 page paper might answer the question, what does a pharmacist do? Because I just go about their daily job, right? Like the things that they're responsible for. And it would be 1 to 3 pages. 3 to 5 pages would be something like, what is the educational path a person would have to follow to become a pharmacist? So then I would look through, okay, well, you need to do your undergraduate degree. It's better to major in these things. Here are some degree plans. Then you need to apply to pharmacy school, get accepted, and go through kind of like a timeline of what that would require. That would be like 3 to 5 pages. And 5 to 7 pages would be something like, what is the educational path, job description, salary range, job outlook, and options for a future pharmacist. Right? So that's just to guide you through the kind of question that's going to yield the right page number and the right depth for your paper. Questions on that section? All right, so you can literally put in bold in your proposal, right before you do that paragraph, research question. And then underneath it, put the paragraph that does that stuff. Then you're going to go to the next line. You're going to type research path in bold, and then you put a paragraph or so in about your research path. So if you've got these components to your question, what are the sections that you think you're going to have to research? You're not going to go to one-stop shop and find everything that you need in one place. That would be super handy, but research isn't like that. So what are the different key parts of your question that you're going to have to research? Try to put them in the order that you'll need to research. Like if there's something that depends on something else, research that thing first before you look up something else. Like if you're writing about the progression of study for a particular field, then you wouldn't want to jump to graduate school before you figured out what needed to happen in undergraduate school. You know what I mean? That wouldn't make sense. So the research path tries to put a logical order to your research. It tries to anticipate what the sections of your research would be. And I put a little, first I will need to do this, and then I can move on to looking for this information, and then I can look for that information. The source list. So on a source list, sometimes they call this the literature review. Source list is where you will list out sources that you plan to use. You don't have to say the website. You can just say, I'm going to need to look for information about the salary of an electrical engineer. So that at least you know that you need a source for that because of the nature of your question. But if you already do know some sources, if you've already done a little looking around when you were preparing your research question, you could list those there as well. And then the last part of your proposal is where you write about the anticipated outcome. You'll be explaining what the paper will provide or teach the reader, or what the reader will gain by reading the final research project. Now, the whole thing needs to be written in the third person, so we're not writing something like, I will research this, that, and the other, I will find out whether or not this is true, whatever. You write it in the third person, so I put some examples here at the bottom about that. Right? Even the anticipated outcome should be written in the third person. Assume that there's somebody else in the world who has that same question that you're researching and that you're sharing your knowledge after the research with them. Does that make sense? Are there any questions about that one's due Monday on Google by class time? Yes? Okay. If you have questions in the meantime, you can certainly reach out and ask me. So then just looking through the other deadlines, you can see that all the other ones, I made them on Saturdays by midnight. I feel like that's most convenient for you. We will have some class time, but then a lot of people, they get a little more free time on Saturdays, or they can make time on Saturdays. So the next stop will be the annotated bib, which is due the 20th of April. That's where you will show that you found at least 10 valid, credible sources on all the different topics that you need to research for your essay. Include a summary of the source and or information about how the source helps to answer the research question. So when we get to that one, after we do the proposal and I get those back to you with feedback, then I'll go over that assignment with you before we start working on it for the 20th. Same thing, then there'll be an outline where you say to me, okay, now I have all my information, I'm going to start organizing it, and this is the basic structure that I think I'm going to end up doing for my paper. And that'll make it a lot easier to write the final paper. And it's easier for me to tweak it with you if we look at the outline and if I have feedback on the structure and suggestions about how to, if you need to adjust that. It's a lot easier to do it at that point than it is to do it when you've already written the draft. We're not doing a first draft, second draft, we're doing an outline final. Does that make sense? Okay. Then the final will be due on the 11th of May. I know that's right smack in the middle of AP testing, but like I said, I need time to grade them, and after that point, graduation's just like 13 days after that, right? Yeah, and you're going to want your clearance forms about 10 days after that. So I want to be able to do those for you ahead of time. Yeah, I want to be able to do those for you ahead of time. I'm also anticipating that there will be some drop-in times. So remember how We had conferences first and second semester for the book talk and also for the college admissions essay. I'm going to make myself available pretty much every day after school so that if you're working on whatever phase of the project we're working on and you want to come in and get feedback like face-to-face, if you want to sit down with me and go over what you're doing, or if you're feeling lost or struggling in some way, then I'm available. So it'll be kind of like a workshop environment. If you just want to come here after school and have a place to work on your paper, you can do that, etc. And then I'm here in case there's something comes up and you need help. So I'm planning on giving that kind of support also to the project. I want everybody to get a good grade on the final for your semester. Okay? So you all do everything that I can do to make that happen. Yeah. Have a little time to work? Yes? Okay. We've got a half an hour left, so if you wanted to start working on your proposal, now would be a good time.